The auction lights were too bright. They burned into the silver skin of the alien girl as she was dragged into the center of the pit, her arms bound in glowing chains. Her feet were bare, bleeding from the rough floor of the market. The crowd above her whistled, cheered, and threw credits in the air. They didn't see her as a living being. To them, she was just meat. Wild, dangerous meat, and rare. The loudspeaker echoed, "Untamable class for female, still breathing. Strong muscles. High protein. Start the bidding at 5,000 credits." Hissed and struggled, baring her sharp teeth. The guards yanked her collar. She dropped to her knees, but even now, she did not beg. Her glowing violet eyes scanned the crowd like a cornered beast. Fear lived in her bones, but fire burned in her blood. She would not die silent. Up above, in the back corner of the auction dome, a man watched quietly. A human, thin, tired, dressed in a grease-stained jacket. His name was Cole, just a cargo hauler. One ship, one life, one fuel cell left. He had come here to trade small parts, not to witness this. But when he saw her, something stabbed deep in his chest. She was young. Maybe his age, maybe younger. And while the others saw a creature, Cole saw a prisoner. "She's untamable," a trader near him whispered. "Her species can't be trained. They bite, they scream. No one's made one obey. Not ever. It's why she's perfect for meat," another laughed. "No guilt when you cut one open." Down in the pit, the alien girl suddenly looked up, straight at Cole. Their eyes met, and in that second, everything stopped. The crowd faded. The laughter muted. Her chest rose and fell fast, but her gaze didn't blink. She wasn't begging. She was asking not for mercy, for a choice. The butcher raised his hand. 10,000? He grinned, stepping forward in blood-stained gloves. "I'll have her chopped by noon," the auctioneer shouted. 10,000 credits? Any higher?" Cole stepped forward. "I'll buy her." The crowd turned. Silence. Dropped like a blade. No one spoke. No one moved. Cole raised his last credit chip, the one that could take his ship just far enough to reach the next safe system. "I'll buy her," he repeated louder. "Not for meat, for transfer. Release her to me." The auctioneer blinked. "You want her alive?" "Yes." "Are you mad?" Cole didn't answer. He kept walking until he reached the bottom ring. Her eyes tracked him the entire time. She didn't look confused. She only breathed quietly, like she didn't want to believe it. "You understand? She's dangerous?" The butcher growled. Cole nodded. "So are we, when caged." The guards exchanged looks. The auctioneer sighed, counting the chip. "Fine. Transfer accepted. Take her and leave before the crowd changes its mind." Cole stepped forward slowly. She tensed, ready to fight. Maybe even die. But he didn't touch her roughly. He knelt and unlocked her collar gently. "I'm not here to hurt you," he whispered. "My ship's cold, but it's safe." She didn't answer. He held out a worn thermal blanket, wrapping it around her shoulders. For a second, her whole body trembled, not from fear, but from the alien feeling of warmth. Then finally she moved. One step, then another, and together they walked out of the pit. Back in his ship, Cole sat her down in the cargo bay. She didn't run. She didn't growl. She just watched everything. His movements, the ship's hum, the blinking lights. He offered her water. She didn't touch it. Food? Nothing. She just sat there, shivering beneath the blanket, like a trapped animal waiting for pain. "You're safe here," he said softly. Still no reply. Cole sighed and turned to leave her alone. I don't know. "Your name," he murmured. "But you're not just meat. Not to me." As the door closed, her hands slowly reached for the water above them. In the dark corners of the station, angry voices whispered, "Someone bought the beast? A human? Fool? Track. His ship, if she escapes, will burn them both." The ship doors sealed behind them with a deep hiss. Cold air wrapped around the cargo bay like fog. Steel walls, faded lights, and old crates greeted the alien girl as she stepped inside for the first time. Her feet still bled. Her arms ached from the glowing chains that had held her. But now, she was free, or so it seemed. Cole watched her carefully, standing near the controls. He didn't speak, didn't rush. She needed space. Her wild eyes scanned every corner like she was searching for hidden knives. Her kind had no reason to trust anything, especially not a human. He motioned to a small mat on the floor, covered in blankets. "You can rest there. It's warm." She didn't move. Instead, she walked slowly to a corner and sat with her back against the wall. Knees pulled to her chest, arms crossed tightly, she watched him with sharp, waiting eyes. Like a storm ready to return if needed, Cole placed a tray. In the middle of the room, water, dry fruit, and a thermal pack. Then he stepped back without a word. "I'm not locking the door," he said, "but if you run outside, the vacuum will kill you faster than the ones at that auction." She said nothing, but her eyes followed every word. Then Cole walked too. The next room, leaving her alone. Hours passed. The engines hummed. Stars blinked outside the porthole. And in the silence, the girl finally moved. She crawled across the floor, toward the tray like a ghost, silent and slow. She sniffed the water. First, then drank. Not all at once, one drop, then another. Out. Her body trembled. She ate only a few pieces of fruit before crawling back to her spot, but now she didn't curl up like before. She stared at the door, waiting, watching. In the cockpit, Cole rubbed his face, tired. He looked at the last fuel reading. Low. The trip back home, or anywhere civilized, was no longer possible. He had used his last fuel cell to leave that cursed station. He didn't regret it. But now they were floating slow drift toward nothing. His ship's AI buzzed. Human, it spoke in a dull tone. "You brought a class for female on board? Danger level, critical." "I know what I did," Cole said. "Species code, HFY. Record shows 10 escape attempts, 7 human deaths, 0 successful bonds. Recommended action, sedate or eject. She's not a threat. You cannot tame a firestorm by talking to it." Cole turned the screen off. Later, he brought another tray of food. This time, she didn't flinch when he entered. Her body was thin but strong. Her silver skin shimmered in the dim lights, glowing faintly at the seams. Her hair was thick and wild, falling like black wires across her back. He sat near the middle of the room and placed the tray down. Then he spoke. "I know you don't. Trust me. I wouldn't either. But I didn't save you to own you." Still no words from her, just breathing. "I saw your eyes. In that pit, you weren't afraid to die. But you didn't want to die forgotten." She blinked slowly and looked down. "My name's Cole," he added. "I won't ask for yours yet." He stood to leave, but just before he reached the door, her voice cracked the silence. "You trade flesh?" He froze, then slowly turned. "No," he said. "I trade parts. Scrap. Never life." She looked at him for a long time. Then, "Why fuel?" she asked. Her voice was rough, unused. "Why burn last?" Cole's eyes softened. "Because no one else would." Her lips moved slightly, almost like a smile, but not quite. That night, while Cole slept in the control chamber, the alien girl stood and explored the cargo bay. She touched the steel walls, the old crates, the warm mat. Everything here was worn but clean. Nothing here smelled of blood. Then she saw a small monitor on the wall and her reflection in it. She stared, not at her body, at her eyes. They looked different now, still sharp, still fierce, but not broken, not empty. Far across space. On the trade station they escaped from, a bounty was posted. Wanted. Human pilot. Name unknown. Ship ID 17. KOX. Fugitive. HFY. Female on board. Reward. 50,000 credits. Dead or alive. Hunters. Started moving, Coordinates started narrowing, but inside the drifting ship, a new question was forming between them. Was she really untamable? Or was this the first time someone ever tried to understand? The ship drifted through dead space, moving slowly between asteroid fields and forgotten debris. Cole sat in the cockpit, checking the panels, while the alien girl stayed quiet in the back. But something between them had changed. She was no longer just a prisoner in a cargo bay. She was watching, listening, learning. Every time Cole entered the room, her body didn't tense like before. And though she still didn't speak much, her eyes no longer burned with hatred. They were searching for something else now. Trust maybe, or a reason to stay. That evening, the ship lights flickered. Cole stood up to check the circuits when the warning sirens began to scream. Unregistered vessel approaching. The AI said. He ran to the monitor. A small fighter ship was closing in, fast, too fast. Pirates. Cole slammed the shield switch. Brace, he shouted, spinning the ship. A sharp jolt threw him sideways. Sparks burst from the ceiling. Something exploded near the engines. From the cargo bay. The alien girl stood as if sensing the storm before it came. She ran toward the sound, not away from it, in the narrow hall. She saw Cole with smoke around him, trying to pull a metal beam off the door. He didn't see her coming. Without a word, she stepped in.
Ow.
Her muscles tensed. She grabbed the red-hot metal and lifted it, her hands sizzling, but she didn't flinch. Cole looked at her, shocked. Your hands? She growled low. Oh. Skin. Heels, not breath. That was the second time she had spoken, and it stunned him more than the attack. They reached the armory room. Ducking under fire from the pirate ship as it latched onto their hull, the enemy was boarding. Cole opened a case and threw her a shock rod. You ever use one of these? She looked down at the weapon, then dropped it. Instead, her body began to glow faintly, silver veins pulsing under her skin. She crouched low. Eyes narrow, breathing calm, Cole whispered, What are you doing? She whispered back, becoming Erikai. The first pirate that entered never saw her coming. She leaped from the ceiling like a blur, claws out, striking his throat with a scream that wasn't rage but survival. Another pirate shot at her, missed. Cole ducked and returned fire, protecting her flank. Together, they moved like instinct. Like soldiers trained for war. She didn't ask where to go. He didn't ask what she was. They just fought. One shot cracked the air. Grazing Cole's arm, he shouted in pain and fell back. The girl turned with fury in her eyes, not fear. With a wild roar, she charged and slammed the last pirate against the wall, snarling. Her claws stopped inches from his heart. But she didn't kill him. Instead, she looked back at Cole and chose to let the pirate run. Silence returned to the ship. Alarms died. Lights steadied. Cole leaned against the wall, breathing hard.
Out.
She walked toward him, silent. Then she crouched beside him and touched his bleeding arm. He winced. It's not too bad. She pulled a thin cloth from a pouch on her leg, the only item she had when he bought her, and pressed it gently against his wound. Then she looked up at him. You are foolish, he smiled. You're not wrong. She pressed harder. You burn fuel, save enemy, fight pirates, bleed. For what? Cole shrugged. Because you're worth it. She tilted her head, confused. You don't know me? Don't need to. Pause. Then her lips moved slowly. My name is Carl. It was the first time she had spoken it aloud since she was taken. Her voice shook, but she didn't hide. Cole's smile softened. Carl, that's beautiful. She blinked quickly and turned her head. But she didn't hide the small breath she released, a breath that sounded like peace. Later that night, Cole sat in the control room, patching his wound. The ship limped forward through space, bruised but still flying. Carol stood at the door, quiet. He looked up. Can't sleep. She didn't answer. She just walked in and sat on the floor beside the wall, watching the stars. He joined her. For a long time, neither said anything. Then Carl whispered, You fought like my brothers once did. Cole glanced at her. And what happened to them? She looked at the stars again. They stopped trusting, so they stopped fighting. Cole nodded slowly. But you fought, she said. For me. He looked at her. I would again. She turned her face slightly, as if the words had reached some part of her still healing. You are strange, she said quietly. And you are alive, he replied. In a nearby system, a dark ship received a transmission. They escaped the attack. Human and Erikai female, still together. The response came cold and fast. Double the bounty. Bring them back breathing for now. The ship floated quietly now, like a tired animal licking its wounds. Panels flickered. Circuits buzzed. Smoke still clung to the corners of the hallway. But inside the living quarters, something gentle was happening. Something the galaxy didn't expect from a human and an Erikai. Cole sat on a small bench, shirt off, as Carol cleaned the burn across his back. Her touch was rough at first, like she was used to pain but not care. Her fingers moved slowly, unsure, as if every part of her wanted to heal but didn't know how. You don't have to, Cole whispered. I do, Carl replied. I harmed the one who helps me. That's not how humans see it, she paused. Then how do humans see it? He turned slightly, smiling. Friends don't count wounds. Carl didn't answer, but her hands grew softer. The healing gel she mixed from his supplies glowed faint blue as she spread it over the raw skin. Her claws were sharp, but she held them back. Her breath was calm. Focused. Cole closed his eyes. Where did you learn this? My mother, she said after a pause. Before they took her, he opened his eyes again. She taught healing. No, Carol replied. She taught remembering. Remembering. Carl nodded. When someone saves you, you do not forget. Not with words, not with time. They sat in silence. Then Carl reached into her pouch and pulled out a thin crystal shard, no bigger than her finger, curved like a leaf. It shimmered in the low light. This is from my homeworld, she said. It burned everything, but I kept this. What? Is it? She looked down at it. A memory stone. It holds one voice. Whose? Ah! She pressed it to her temple. A soft hum filled the room, and a voice spoke in a strange language, soft like wind, full of music. Carl closed her eyes. My father, telling me, you are not a beast. You are the wind that cannot be chained. Cole didn't move. The sound faded. The room was quiet again. Why show me? He asked. Because you treated me like wind, not a cage. Cole leaned back. You've been through too much. We both have, she said. That night she didn't return to the cargo bay. She sat in the same room, on the floor, wrapped in a blanket. Watching the stars, Cole gave her space, but he knew something was shifting. A layer of fear was peeling away, not completely, but enough to breathe. The next day they worked together for the first time. Cole gave her a toolkit. It then opened it slowly. You've used tools before? He asked. Carl pointed. This opens vents. That one clears jammed rotors. He blinked. You know my ship better than I do. She didn't smile, but her eyes lit up with pride. They worked on the damaged stabilizer. Side by side, no chains, no collars, just grease-stained hands and tired arms. And when Cole dropped a spanner on his foot and yelled, Carol let out something. Between a grunt and a quiet laugh, he looked at her. What was that? No, she said quickly. But she looked away, and her shoulders shook slightly. Later, in the kitchen unit, Cole made her something simple. Heated roots, spiced broth, and nutrient bread. She sat across from him, holding the spoon like it was unfamiliar. Don't you eat with utensils? He asked. My kind eats when there is time, not when there is comfort. Well, he said, sliding the bowl closer, you've got both now. Carl watched the steam rise. You are strange, I've been told. She took a bite, then another, and didn't stop. But peace never lasts in drifting ships. That night, an encrypted message cracked through their radar. Warning, you are being tracked. Do not answer. Do not jump. They are coming. Cole stared at it, heartbeat rising. Carl stood behind him. Who sent that? No signature, but someone's watching. Cole nodded. They want you back. Oh. Hands tightened into fists. They can try. The next morning, Cole found a surprise. Carl had fixed half the stabilizer unit by herself. Not only that, she had added a few adjustments that made the engine quieter, smoother. "You were a warrior?" he asked. "I was a mind first, then claws. Engineer. More like the mind that helped others fly." Lee looked at her with new respect. "You're full of surprises, so are you," she replied. "You don't lock doors." Cole paused. "Because you deserve to choose." Carol turned, staring at him with unreadable eyes. Then she said softly, "Then I choose to stay." In the darkness of space, two signals blinked in from a distant fleet. "Human vessel located. Proceed with capture. Both targets alive." But in the heart of the drifting ship, the once untamable girl was no longer waiting for rescue or revenge. She was ready to fight for something else now. They reached the edge of the Juno Drift at midnight cycle, a starless region thick with broken satellites and asteroid skeletons. The map said it was abandoned, silent, empty. But Carol's ears twitched before the radar even blinked. She turned sharply from the front window. "We are not alone." Cole checked the screen, just static and fog. "Nothing there," said adjusting knobs. She stepped closer to the console. "Your machine listens with wires, I listen with blood." Cole didn't argue. He'd learned something by now. If Carol felt danger, it was already near. Inside the drift, everything looked dead. Gray rocks spun slowly. Shattered hulls of forgotten ships floated like ghosts. Juno was once a refueling station, until war destroyed it decades ago. Now, it was the perfect place to stage an ambush. And that's exactly what someone had done. The first missile came without warning. A direct hit to the port stabilizer spun the ship sideways. Alarms screamed. Cole slammed into the console. Sparks rained down from above. Carol grabbed him by the back of his jacket, dragging him clear of falling metal. "Someone tracked us," he coughed. "They don't want to destroy," she growled. "They want to take." It's not made it worse. Two enemy ships flanked them, black, silent, and armed with grappling claws. These weren't pirates, these were bounty ships. Cole fought the controls. "Engines are low. Can't outrun them." "Out!" Hands hovered over the backup panel. "Then we fight." He looked at her. "We're outgunned." She looked back, but not outwilled. They launched emergency flares, bright explosions meant to blind the enemy for a few seconds. Enough time to slip through a gap in the asteroid field. But it was too late. One enemy claw gripped their hull. Metal screamed. The ship shook. "There." "Coming aboard," Cole shouted. Carol didn't wait. She ran to the airlock, no armor, no gun, just the wild strength of her kind. And the memory of what cages felt like. The first bounty hunter stepped into the ship. He didn't last up. Second, Carol hit him with her full weight, slamming him into the wall. She didn't kill, not yet. She made sure he stayed down. Cole arrived a moment later with a pulse blaster. 3 more incoming. She grabbed the weapon, looked at it once, then tossed it aside. "I have better," she said, baring her claws. The fight was fast and brutal. Carl moved like lightning, silent, focused. She didn't strike to kill. She struck to stop, to protect. Cole backed her up, taking shots only when needed. He trusted her now more than he trusted the ship, but in the chaos. A sharp noise cracked the air, and Carl dropped to one knee. She had been hit, a needle dart in her side. Laced with a tranquilizer strong enough to drop a full-grown oxen beast, she ripped it out with a hiss. But her legs were already shaking. "Cole," she gasped, falling against the wall. He ran to her, firing behind him. He grabbed her under the arms, dragging her toward the medbay. "You're not going out here," he growled. "Not now." She blinked up at him, weak but conscious. "You used fuel. You chose me, and I'm not letting them undo that." Her breathing slowed. Her skin pulsed faintly, glowing in waves. Then she whispered, "Use the crystal." He stared. "What?" She pointed to the memory stone around her neck. "Break it." Cole hesitated. "That's all you have left." Carl met his eyes, and her voice came steadier than expected. "Break it, I become what they fear most. He didn't understand, but he obeyed. He smashed the crystal against the wall. The moment it shattered, Carl screamed, not in pain, but like a storm waking up. Her body arched. Light exploded from her chest, her veins turning silver bright. Then she stood. Her claws grew longer. Her posture straighter, eyes sharp as blades. Cole stepped back. Carl, she turned to him, her voice deeper, fuller. Now they will see what untamable truly means. She walked into the corridor like a queen reborn. The remaining bounty hunters froze, weapons shaking. Carl didn't run. She moved straight through them, her glow warping the air. Disabling weapons with a wave of heat and force, she didn't need claws. She was the weapon. Minutes later, it was over. All attackers unconscious. No lives taken, only warnings sent. Carl collapsed into Cole's arms as the glow faded. He held her tightly. You didn't have to save me. She rested her head on his shoulder. You taught me. Something what? That freedom is worth bleeding for. Far above Juno Drift, command ship received silence. The squad was down, and a new message broadcasted. This is Cole of the freighter. Mira, the girl you called Untamable, just saved your lives. Again, try to take her again, and you'll see what humanity does when it's protecting someone who matters. The ship floated silent now, deep in a shadow field where no radar could reach. Hidden between ice moons and shattered comet trails, Cole patched wires while Carl lay in the med bay. Her skin faintly glowing from the aftershock of what she'd become. Her breath was shallow. Her muscles twitched from the energy she had released, but her eyes were clear and watching him. You should rest, Cole said softly, wiping sweat from his brow. Carl blinked once. I have rested too long. You almost died. She shook her head. What was that back there? What happened when I broke the crystal? Carl turned her head slowly toward him. It wasn't just a memory stone. It was a lock. A lock. She nodded. My kind. We were not made wild. We were made powerful. So powerful, even we feared ourselves. He listened carefully. Our ancestors placed memory stones in each child, not to protect us, but to hold us back. The voice of our family would keep the fire small, and you let me break yours? Because I needed you to see what they feared. Cole looked down at her burned hands. But it hurt you. Pain is truth, she said. But fear is control. Silence settled. Outside, the black of space hummed. Inside, something deeper shifted between them. Carl looked away. They didn't cage me because I was violent, Cole. They caged me because I refused to be obedient. You wouldn't? Submit. I knew who I was. Cole leaned back. Then they were never scared of what you might do. They were scared you'd remind others they didn't have to kneel. She sat up slowly, groaning at the ache in her side. You know, she said, voice low. You never asked me why I was taken. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. She looked at him a long pause. My people lost the war. We refused to kneel to the galactic order. We weren't wiped out. We were silenced, enslaved, branded as unstable, then sold. Cole's jaw clenched. They called us untamable, she said, as if we were beasts. But it was never about rage. It was about dignity. Cole stood and walked to the window. Stars glittered beyond the hull, but none looked kind tonight. Then why didn't you kill them back there? He asked quietly. You could have. Carl answered without pause. 'Cause I fight to be free, not to become like them. Cole smiled faintly, nodding. You know what scares them more than your claws? What? That you're better than they ever were? Carl let the silence stretch. Then softly, she said, and what about you? What about me? Why burn your last fuel for someone like me? Cole turned, his voice steady. Because someone like you didn't deserve to die chained. In front of a laughing crowd, she stared at him. You risked everything? I still would. Pause. Then Carol whispered, I was not born to follow. But with you, I don't feel owned. You're not, he said. You never? Were. Later that night, Carl entered the control room. Cole was sleeping in the pilot's chair, a blanket barely covering his shoulders. She stood for a while, watching him, confused by her own heart. No human had ever touched her without cruelty. No voice had ever called her free. She moved closer, then did something her kind rarely did. She touched his hand, lightly, just for a second. He didn't wake, but his fingers curled around hers, like it was natural. And for the first time, Carl didn't feel untamable. She felt seen. Meanwhile, across the sector, the galactic bounty system glitched. A message had spread across independent channels. The Arakai are alive, and they remember. They are not beasts. They are rising. Officials tried to block it, to trace it, but it was too late. A name echoed now, not as a warning, but as a symbol. Soar. The girl who didn't break. The fire they couldn't cage. Back on the ship, Cole woke to find Carl sitting beside him, her eyes calm. "You left a blanket for me," she said. He rubbed his eyes. "Yeah, I returned the favor." She reached down and handed him a wrapped piece of root bread, warm, freshly cooked. He laughed softly. "You cooked, watched your recordings, guessed most of it." He took a bite and nodded. "You guessed well." She looked at the stars again, then asked something she'd never thought she'd ask. "Where do we go next?" Cole leaned back, thinking, somewhere with air, maybe green, maybe quiet. She smiled faintly. "Maybe somewhere where no one asks to own anyone." He nodded. "Maybe," he said, "somewhere we can just be." Carl didn't answer, but she didn't need. To deter her silence was no longer fear. It was peace. The ship drifted into the outer ring of Dastera 9, a planet untouched by trade, war, or empire law. Clouds moved slow and gold across green skies. Mountains floated in the air like islands. There were no space stations, no patrols, just quiet. Cole lowered the ship gently onto a grassy plain. The soil was soft under the landing. Struts. Carl stepped out first. Barefoot, she bent down and pressed her hand into the dirt. It was cold, clean, and alive. She had not felt living ground in years. Cole followed, pulling a supply bag over his shoulder. "It's not perfect," he said, glancing around. "But no one owns it." Carl looked at him. "Then it's already better than most." They spent the first few hours gathering wood from crystal bark trees and setting up a heat shelter. Near a shallow stream, birds with violet feathers circled above, singing in strange notes. Carl moved with purpose, no chains, and no eyes watching her from behind walls. No men shouting commands. Only space and one human who still didn't understand why she stared at him the way she did at nightfall. They sat near the heater coil. Cole handed her a cup of warm broth. She took it gently, her claws retracted. "Do you miss your people?" he asked. She nodded once, every moment, even the ones I tried to forget. Cole looked into the fire. "Do you think they're still out there?" "Some," she whispered, hiding, pretending, waiting. For what? Carl didn't answer right away. Then she said, "For a sign." He looked over at her. "And what if you're the sign?" She didn't smile, but something in her eyes softened. "Then I hope they're watching." 3 days passed. They built a small outpost from salvage panels and cave stone. Carl reworked the ship's damaged antenna into a signal dish. But instead of hiding it, she powered it up and opened a frequency. "What are you doing?" Cole asked. "Calling them," she replied. "Won't that be dangerous? Not if I speak in our lost code?" He tilted his head. "You have a lost code." She nodded. "Old language. Only spoken by those who remember what it meant to be free." She tapped in the message. "I am Carol. I was sold. I was chained. I was burned. But now I speak to the sky. I am alive." Cole watched the screen. "Do you think anyone will hear it?" Carl whispered. "They already have." Then a broken voice, clicking, musical, full of emotion. Carl froze. Her breath hitched. Cole waited. She turned to him, eyes wet. "They heard me." The next day, a small ship landed just beyond the ridge. It was old, half covered in vines, clearly hidden for years. But the woman who stepped out looked like Carl, older, battle-worn, but unmistakably Arakai. "Daughter," she said in their tongue. Carl ran. For the first time, she ran toward someone, not away. They embraced without shame, without fear. The elder placed her forehead to Carol's and whispered, I thought you were gone. Carol looked back at Cole. I was, but he brought me back. The human watched quietly, unsure of where he now stood in her world. But Carl walked back to him and took his hand in front of the others. This is Cole, she said loudly. He did not save me because I was strong. He saved me because I mattered. The other Arakai bowed their heads in silent respect. They saw him now not just as a human, but as something rare in any species. Loyal. More signals came in the following days, others from the stars, survivors, hidden camps, whispered memories, and soon, what started as one broken voice became a wave, a return, a rising. Months passed. Cole and Carl stayed on Duster 9. Not as fugitives, but as founders. They built a home with no flags, a safe sky. Carl trained young Arakai how to fight with honor, not rage. Cole taught them how to repair ships, not destroy them. They grew crops, cooked together, laughed, and every night they sat under the stars and told the story of the pit. The fuel, the fire, and the choice that changed everything. One evening, Carl stood at the edge of a cliff, watching the sky. Cole walked up beside her. She said, they called me Untamable. He smiled. They were right. She looked at him. Still think so. You weren't meant to be tamed, he said. You were meant to be free. She nodded. Reaching out and placing his hand over her chest, he felt her heartbeat, strong and steady. This is the only cage I carry now, she whispered. Cole held her hand tighter. Then I'll guard it with my life. Above them, 3. Arakai ships crossed the stars, not hiding anymore. It's becoming home. And beneath those stars, a girl once sold for meat, now stood tall. Not owned, not feared, not broken, just free.